All right, everybody. If you hear that music, you know that Dr. Arthur C. Bartner and the University of Southern California Trojan Marching Band is somewhere nearby. And also somewhere nearby is Steven Travers. This is Take 5 with Steven Travers. Welcome, everybody, to 100 Yards of Football. And, Steven, when you play that, obviously it means that there's an alumni. There's once a Trojan, always a Trojan somewhere nearby. And today you were able to get Pat Harlow on. Thank you so much for doing so.
Well, it's a tremendous honor for me. And, getting back to what you were saying, you're a Bruin for 4 years, but you're a Trojan for life. And I did not know Pat Harlow, but I know a lot of his teammates, Todd Marinovich and Billy Mills, I think it was. Gene Fruget is still a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys aren't with us. Todd Marinovich I knew very well. Mark Carrier, Junior Seau, all those guys. This was Pat Harlow was there during a golden era of USC football. So, Pat Harlow, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on Take 5 with Steven Travers. And fight on.
Fight on. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
Pat, if I were to begin by asking a question, what was it like for you the first time you had a helmet, shoulder pads, you had the black shoes, probably high tops, all laced up real tight. You walk out there on the field and you hear that music, maybe a freshman or something like that. What would that do how does that stir a young football player's soul?
Walking down that tunnel and hearing that fight song got you absolutely jacked every time you heard it. It was surreal because I grew up watching SC. They sent me my first recruiting letter that they send out to, probably 5,000 or more people. And I said, if I ever get a chance, they ever offer me, that's where I'm going. So it was actually a dream come true.
Did you go to a game or several games when you were a kid? You grew up in the Riverside area, which for folks that don't know, you're probably, well, with traffic, you're 5 hours. But, if there's not a whole lot of traffic, you're about an hour east of the Coliseum off of 10 and Exposition, or am I a little off? Is it a little further away than that?
No, you're about right if there's no traffic, but I only went to high school in Riverside. So I grew up in Long Beach, Huntington Beach, Westminster, all over the place. My name was New Kid for a long time. And Steve was talking about, Mark Carrier. Mark Carrier and I played Pop Warner football together, and Brian Tuliao and Charles Burnham. And that we had a pretty good football team for 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds.
Yeah, you and is Carrier the guy that basically carried the ball every time? He was fast enough to just don't get tackled because you got Harlow blocking for you.
It was funny because Mark was obviously a really good player and a running back at the time, but we had some dogs on that team. I think 30 of our 31 kids on that team played Division I sports, either football, basketball, or baseball.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we were, and I was younger than those guys because I was a little heavy. Back in the day, they call you fat. So
you were husky, right? Not a Washington husky, but you were just husky enough to where you had to fit in jeans that wouldn't fit in anybody else for a kid your size, right?
Yeah. So I was a young kid, and obviously we were all young, but I was younger than those guys, and so it was interesting times. And Mark was obviously a great player for us, but we had a bunch of them too.
Pat, were you a guy that when you were growing up, were you always a foot larger than everybody else in the class photo, or did you catch up to it a little bit later on?
No, I never had a growth spurt. So, I was 6'2", 185 in sixth grade. And then, my freshman year of high school, I was 6'4". My sophomore year, I was 6'7", and just kind of stopped after that.
Yeah.
I was skinny though, because I was still 185 till I was, just almost 18 years old.
Oh, no kidding! You couldn't get the weight on, right? I mean, probably eating 18,000 calories a day, and you're still I'm 186 today, Coach. Sorry, I can't do anything else. I can't do anything about it.
I was a basketball guy. I would leave football practice to go play basketball. I would sneak out of the weight room during lifting to go shoot hoops and play basketball. And my football coach come and get your ass back in here. And so I thought it was going to be a basketball star.
Hey, in high school, could it have been any better? Were you a Laker or a Celtic fan? You didn't have a choice. You had to be a Laker fan, didn't you?
I was a Laker fan, no doubt.
Yeah,
I believe in Magic.
that's right. And the first year when Magic in '80, when he has to take the 5 spot because Kareem couldn't get through the headaches and make the trip to Philadelphia, was that
Yep.
like a real awakening for you? And that I got Converse. Nike's just coming out with the shoe. There's Adidas out there. The game itself is rejuvenated. If you remember, that game was that
Totally.
final was videotaped and delayed. We didn't get to see it live, right? And same with some of the early Celtic championship games. So I follow up. So the question to you is basically, did basketball really become a number one sport for you? Was that what you really wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I was as much as I hate, Steve's going to hate this, but we had a friend rent a room from us, and her boyfriend was the Bruin mascot. And so he would take me to Poly, and I'd watch Kiki Vandeweghe just work out. And so I was a huge basketball fan.
Okay. And the 1980, I think they lost to Louisville, but Kiki's senior year, right? The basketball team was pretty stinking good there at UCLA. Not a national champion level, but they were pretty doggone close.
Yeah, they were excellent. I mean, they were so good for so long, and then now it's kind of like, I don't know, most of their programs are up and down.
Sure. Yeah. But getting to go to the games, a very unique experience at Pauley Pavilion. Unlike SC's basketball at that time, it was not the place to go.
No, unless you.
Pat, when you were younger, did you baseball also, soccer? Were there other sports that you enjoyed playing?
I think we have.
How about now? Can you hear me again?
We've got audio issues.
Can you hear us now, Pat? Steven, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
I think, Pat, you back on?
There.
Oh, here we go.
How about now?
Yeah.
Whatever you did.
You good now, Pat?
Yeah, you guys froze on my end.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
But we're good now, right?
Oh, I see what happened. My wife started my truck. And
blame the wife, Pat.
Well,
I will.
As the good doctor would say, don't do that. It'll stop hurting if you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Pat, I was asking about other sports that you like to play. You grew up at Huntington Beach. I'm sure you may have tried surfing a couple of times. Baseball, obviously, track and field. What were your limitations? Bowling? What else did you do when you were a kid?
I mean, I spent a lot of time at the beach, obviously. Body surfing, boogie boarding. Baseball, I was a big baseball guy for a while, like you said earlier, until they started throwing curveballs. I did track one day. I threw the disc, and I didn't know it was any good, but I threw it 185 the first day I went out, and I guess that would have won league or something, but I didn't know. It was just boring. I was like, I can't hang out here all day.
Yeah.
So I was luckily, because I did move around a lot, athletics kind of saved me, because everybody wants somebody, like even in kickball, when you're in second grade, you can kick it out of the yard. So I was pretty athletic growing up, and very competitive.
Older brothers, sisters? Was it just a bunch of guys around the house that lived in the neighborhood that you hung out with?
Yeah, it was just mostly friends around the neighborhood. I have an older brother, and bless his heart, he's the most non-athletic person I've ever seen in my life. He tried to play baseball in 8th grade. That's really a bad time to start.
Yeah.
He's very talented in other things, just athletically not gifted.
Doesn't have that. Music, arts, science, smarts. He's got all that, but I don't want him to play wiffle ball on my team because, now, were you a wiffle ball guy? We always tease about, the curveball that starts basically on the backside of your ear and then it crosses the plate. And If you can hit that, you can probably make hit anything.
I loved wiffle ball playing. We played a lot of wiffle ball when I was a kid, especially when I was in Long Beach, and I could hit that. But I
Yeah.
think as the ball became harder and faster, it became an issue.
Yeah.
I was very good in the field. I could pitch. I loved catching. Catching was my deal. Obviously, they put every tall kid at first base, which I wasn't a fan of. But I liked to catch. Catching was my thing.
But then also playing hoops, you didn't mind running a lot. And that, I would imagine, especially as football started to take over, was probably a great advantage for you. While everybody else was struggling to make weight, and then they had to run a mile or even a quarter, anything like that, that was a breeze for you, right? You were in condition to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I loved running until I haven't run in about 10 years, but I loved running. I used to kill people on the jogathons because they'd see a little fat kid show up and, oh, I'll give this kid, 50 cents a lap or something. I'd just go out and kill him.
Yeah.
And then the best thing for basketball for me was I had really good feet because I wasn't the biggest guy, but I had really good feet and I could get myself into positions that not a lot of people can, I guess.
It's a different game now where you had to learn how to box out, right? And something simple like that, and keep somebody else from getting a rebound. Maybe a lost art in today's game, but nonetheless, that was one of the critical factors, learning how to do a crossover and being a good dribbler. I've always said this, if you can dribble, you can play on anybody's team because not everybody can.
Yeah, well, I learned how to play defense and rebound because when I was in Huntington Beach, there was the city gym that was all ex-NBA or CBA players, current CBA players, and you couldn't get on the floor. So I would just be there for like literally 8 hours a day, and I would just rebound and play defense. And I finally knocked down a shot, or it gave me a shot. I knocked one down, like, oh, this kid can shoot. And I'm like, yeah, I could shoot. And all of a sudden, now when I rolled in, I got next to whoever was playing. It's like, I'm in. And so I got to start playing. So you had to earn it, man. You had to really earn it.
I was going to say, yeah, once you earn it, you got to sit and watch for a little while. And then if you're any good at all, they'll sniff that out. Yeah. Those are really important. In my childhood, I played at Poly. I had a friend that lived just a couple blocks from UCLA's campus. And we'd go Friday night and all day Saturday. We'd play basketball until we couldn't play anymore. They'd either shut the gym down or whatever. But there's a certain toughness that you need to learn because you're going to get somebody bigger or stronger or faster or just plain better. And you don't want to give up the court time. So you got to learn how to play things a little bit differently and be a full-grown man, even though you may not be one. Is that something that was important for you?
It was, yeah. I mean, I talked a little bit too, so like older guys that start talking and that would just fire me up. I'm like, I'll show you what this kid can do. Like, quick story. So do you remember Swin Nader and Mark Eaton?
Sure.
Mark, who couldn't remember Mark Eaton? Yeah, the two of them, they're like 25 feet tall if you stacked one on top of the other.
Yeah. So one of my high school basketball coaches coached both of those guys and brought them to my high school. And I'm 16, and Mark had just set the record for most blocks and won defensive MVP. And I'm like, I'm dunking on these cats. So I take off, and because I'm quicker than Mark. I don't care, but he eats up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So I'm going up to just cram one, and he just absolutely knocks it out of the gym. And he's like, I like that you tried though. So,
yeah. No kidding, right?
Yeah.
Who says that? You were 16, you said? Is that how old you were?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How did that affect your football? Because I read somewhere that says you're a defensive-minded offensive player. Is that something that you take as a compliment? I think I would.
Actually, I hate that.
What?
I hate it, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm offensive. Like I am like I always thought, man, I'm on offense. And I get to go knock you. I'm trying to take you against your will someplace else.
Yeah.
So that was like, I heard that a lot. And it's because I played defensive end my first 2 years at SC. I backed up Tim Ryan. And I always took that as not enough respect for offensive linemen. Like he plays like a defensive lineman. Like, no, I play like offensive line should be played. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, just different perspective, because the compliment that I see is that the aggression, the go for it, you basically have one goal or objective, and it's get to the ball as a
Yeah.
defensive player. And you said did you play any defense in high school?
I never left the field in high school. Yeah,
Really?
I got recruited as a defensive end. Had I known Tim Ryan was so good, I probably would have maybe changed my mind on what school I would have gone to. But I played every game my first 2 years, backing him up. My first play in college was against Tony Mandarich. That didn't go so well, and and then it got to the point when after my sophomore year, I started the first game of the season, played really well against an All-American second-round pick, played really, really well against them. And then after that year, I went to Coach Smith and said, "You can't tell me I'm not one of the top 22 guys on this team." And he's like, "Would you play offensive line?" I'm like, "I just want to play. I don't care where it's at. I want to play. I want to go out and be a meaningful contributor to this team." And he's like, "Well, let's move to offensive line," and worked out pretty well.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's talk. Before we go to the SC stuff, let's high school. What was the moment that you realized I'm pretty good, I've got a chance, and I might be able to make it? You said you got the letters. Before you started getting letters, what was it about the game itself that you fell in love with and say, I think this is good? Because in my opinion, from what you said earlier, you're replacing basketball.
Yeah. I just love the physicality of it. And I love the idea of 11 guys on either side of the ball have to work together and literally a dance to make things work. But I just love being able to, I love the contact. I mean, I got to be honest, that's what fired me up.
Yeah.
Because that would get me thrown out of basketball games.
It would. Absolutely. You're going to get teed up for too much of it, but worse, you get a penalty and then the coach pulls you over on the sideline and goes, "That was a great job. Do it again." They're not going to throw a flag on you every time.
Right.
Coaching, who do you thank at the high school level for giving you?
So I was so blessed. These men changed my lives in such a positive way. So Riney Klein was my defensive coordinator. Gary Campbell was our head coach and offensive coordinator, and my offensive line coach, his name's Alan Kruger. They changed my life in so many ways. I could never repay those guys for what they did for me.
There was a guy that went to a banquet. I've shared the story before, but not with you, obviously. He told all the 14-year-olds in that area, so the high school seniors all the way down to like 6-year-olds that were playing, 400 kids. All the 14-year-olds, would you please stand up? And they do. And he says, parents, friends, family, coaches, these 14-year-olds are not going to look the same. They're not going to act the same. They're not going to behave the same. And everything about them is going to be different by the time that they're 18 years old. They can love this game for the rest of their life, or they can hate it. It's up to you. You got to make sure that, you got to teach them, but you don't give them all the negative stuff. It sounds like your coaches were just the right medicine at the right time for you, to where you love the game and you still appreciate greatly what they were able to contribute into you and your life and your athletic career.
Yeah, no, they were amazing. And it's obviously way more than football, what they did for me. They were there for me in some really tough times and helped really mold me into the man I became, along with my wife. I've been with my wife since I was 15. So she's pretty important in that whole process as well.
No kidding. Wow. Is that what you started dating at 15, or you were kind of shy and go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
No, we started dating. I fell in love with her about after the second date.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it took her a little longer, didn't it? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. If you would have known me at 15, it'd have taken a lot longer.
Yeah,
now you're still 185 pounds.
Your cell phone.
Yeah, she's seen me from 185 to 310 to back down.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been through it all. A lot of surgeries, a lot of waiting for in the waiting room.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Talk a little bit. When did the body start growing into what you could be considered a top recruit and a guy that USC is really going to hunt after?
It was really right after probably spring of my junior year. I'm like, I'd been offered by Oregon to play basketball, and um, I was really thinking about quitting football. I went and talked to my head coach. He's like, "You're going to have to make that decision. It's just not today." Um, and he's like, "I really think you got a really good opportunity in football." And I started thinking, like, all right, I'm a really good high school basketball player. I'm a very good basketball player. I'm not a national recruit. I'm probably going to be on the bench a lot. There's only 5 guys get to play. Or I can go and have at least 3 to 4 opportunities as a D lineman or 5 opportunities as an offensive lineman to get on the
Sure.
field.
Yeah.
So I kind of started going that way with it, obviously. And like between the end of basketball season, my junior year, and the start of football season, I think I put on was 185 and I was 240. So, quite a bit of weight in that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Harlow, your parents, did Dad have to go get an extra shift just to bring home enough food to feed you?
No, my pops wasn't around. My mom's raised me my whole life, and
Okay.
she provided the means for me to eat like a freaking maniac, and take the worst tasting protein weight gainer shakes that were ever invented at that time. Mid '80s was not a great time for protein shake flavor.
Well,
So
flavor
yeah,
was either chalk or barbecue
chalk.
chips, right?
You know, ate a lot of quarter pounders with cheese.
Sure.
And yeah, I just ate all the time. And what's crazy is like when I got to the NFL and I started really like dialing in I was eating 10,000 calories a day and it was clean. I had a nutritionist and then like that was a job. That was not fun.
Well, the before we get to SC, talk a little bit about just some of your teammates and your buddies because you're eating quarter pounders. You're getting 3 while they're getting 1 or 2. But were there other teammates that were nearby in meaning, on the offense or defensive line or other that were also getting recruited along with you?
No, I was like at that time, my high school is very highly recruited since I left. But before that, we had my offensive line with Todd Gerhardt, Toby's dad, was there. He played Cal State Fullerton. My offensive line coach played Cal State Fullerton. We had a guy, Dave Mutt, who was, I think, 2 or 3-time Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. He was a senior when I was a sophomore. And then we had a guy, Mike Ramil, who played at Cal and then ended up at Alabama. Big 6'8" monster. His son's the starting left tackle at Michigan State now. So we weren't really highly recruited. We were really good, but we were just tiny, tough, and it was very, it's called Horsetown, USA. So it was very rural at the time,
Yeah.
not anymore. And we were just a bunch of tough guys, and we went out and just we would beat you up a little bit. We'd beat you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough, hard-nosed football. It transcends time and
Yeah.
always has. I don't want to keep Steven out of the interview. I want to, but the trip to SC, and then, like I said at the beginning of the show, there's something special about the music, the band, everything like that, and that now you become a Trojan. Talk a little bit about that.
It was an amazing time in my life. I got to play in front of 100,000 fans. We played Oklahoma one year. It was 100,000, 106,000 there, and just got to play in some very big games and just meet friends for life that are still big parts of my life. And it was an amazing trip, and I'm so blessed to have been able to have the opportunity to go there and graduate from there and play with phenomenal players and phenomenal people.
Steven?
Yeah, well, my question is, you were mentioning that you grew up in places like Long Beach and Huntington Beach, and then you end up at Norco. How did you end up in Norco from that environment?
My mom's job changed, and I literally stayed in Huntington 3/4 of my freshman year with a friend's house because I was not going to move to Huntington, or I was not going to move to Norco. And finally, that summer, I think it was the summer of '84, we moved out there, and it's 105 degrees my first day out there. I thought I was going to die. and there was a rooster crowing at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, that's basically the Imperial Valley. And I remember an article in the LA Times, it was right around the time when you were playing, and it talked about the culture of football in the Imperial Valley and that area, Riverside, San Bernardino. It mentioned Eisenhower High School, where Ronnie Lott had gone, and that a lot of military families live out there because there are some military bases. And it's just a completely different mindset and cultural environment than Los Angeles proper, even though it's not very far away.
Right.
Was there an adjustment on your part to adjust to that kind of environment?
You know what? Not really. You know, part of moving around a lot as a kid, you kind of become a chameleon, you know, to fit in. So that wasn't hard. And I love the mentality out there, you know, and growing up in Huntington Beach, I got to watch Edison High School when they were in their prime, you know, and they're just a bunch of tough beach kids, you know, as hard as people don't ever really put toughness with beach kids, but like Edison football is a bunch of tough kids, and those were a bunch of my buddies ended up playing at Edison and Huntington Beach, where, you know, they were pretty good at that time as well. But moving out there it was, I guess, a little bit of a shock, but I seemed to figure it out pretty quickly.
Well, a lot of great players have come from that area. You mentioned Toby Gerhardt, who's younger than you, but he played there and he went to Stanford. I said earlier, Ronnie Lott, you know, Glenn Davis, who was Mr. Inside at Army and won the Heisman Trophy. He played at Bonita High School, which is out in that area. So it's produced
Anthony Munoz out that area too.
Anthony Munoz from
Ontario.
Ontario. Yeah, I got a chance to get to know Anthony Munoz a couple of years ago, and he's a really great guy, and I had a great conversation with him. But that's another one. So, but there were so many great athletes. Now, if I'm looking at your timeline correctly, I would say that you were probably recruited by Ted Tollner, and then Larry Smith became the coach. Is that correct?
Yep, I was recruited by Tollner, and actually never met him until a few years ago when I was training some NFL or college guys getting ready for the combine, and I was working with his son, Bruce, and Ted was out doing tight end stuff. And it's like, Coach, I never got to meet you, but I walked up and we talked for a little bit. I really think had he made it through one more year, he might have been there for another 20. You know, he had recruited so well. They were just so young, you know, his last few years that he didn't get to see the fruits of his labor.
Well, there is no question that he left the drawers full for Larry Smith. The 1987 Trojans, who won the conference, defeated UCLA, had the great Tim Ryan, had Rodney Peete. Of course, he had Rodney Peete, so that was, of course, he recruited Rodney Peete.
Yeah.
And then the 88 team that you played on, this would have been your sophomore year. This came within a fraction of the national championship. Yep. So you came in the fall of 1987, and this was Tim Ryan, you had talked about earlier. He was the leader of the team. Is that correct? Did he set the tone?
Actually, I think at that time it was Marcus Cotton who was kind of the leader of the defense. And, well, honestly, the leader of the defense when I first came in was probably Rex Moore.
Sure.
Who was just phenomenal player, broke his ankle in the first game and kind of ended his career. But it was, you know, Marcus, Rex, T-Rye was definitely up there with it. But, you know, that team was so loaded. But you had Greg Cowett and Mark Carrier and Cleveland Coulter, and like all those guys were phenomenal players, and they were all leaders in their own ways. But I just remember Marcus a ton.
Rex Moore, would you, if I use the word crazy to describe Rex Moore, do you think that would be accurate, or you knew him better than I did? But I knew him a bit. And from what I saw of him and heard about him, he was
he was out there a little bit. He was out
he's
there a
out
little
there
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He's still one of my all-time favorite people. Rex and I, we don't talk very often, but we get together for lunch like at least once a year. We try to do it every 6 months just to stay in contact. He is literally one of my all-time favorite people.
Yeah, and I know he played at El Medina High School in Orange. Is that correct?
They were loaded.
They were
Almost
loaded.
yes.
And my daughter went to their rival, Villa Park. So I became very aware of in fact, I covered it for the LA Times. I covered high school sports. And I was at every El Medina Villa Park game for a couple of years there. And those were really, who was your main rival when you were in high school?
Oh, shoot. I mean, it was like just by proximity, it was Corona Centennial, but really our rival was Claremont. That's when they had McGuire as the quarterback, Dan.
Dan McGuire, right?
Yeah, yeah. So he beat us twice in the semifinals for the CIF championship. So they were our main rival, at that time. And he had a kid, Travis Watkins, that played receiver at Iowa, was really good, had a great career in college. And they had a linebacker. I don't remember this kid's name, but dude had traps up to his ears, and he was trying to kill people. So pretty good football team at that time. So, but we lost to them by 3 points twice.
Tough team.
I still hate them.
Yeah.
I don't let it go very well.
Yeah. Well, high school rivalries they last forever. I still know a lot of the people I played with and against in high school, and we still get together, and it's, the old rivalry is still there.
Yeah.
Now, so you go to play at Southern Cal for Larry Smith, and I was around the program and around a lot of the players, and I heard a lot about Larry Smith. And what I heard was that he was a very strict disciplinarian, and his practices were very hard and very tough. His coaches, particularly his linebackers coaches, ran a very tough practice. Is that true during this period of time?
Very true. Yeah, like games were easy. We were very prepared. We had very physical practices. The craziest coach on that team was actually the offensive line coach, Coach Matsko, who was, he was really good at what he did. And I love him. Not a lot of people love him, but I love him. And, the practices were very hard. They're very taxing. But I know when we got into a game, it was like, I remember we're playing Oregon State, and Oregon State obviously isn't very good at this time. And my line coach comes like, "You just working on technique right now?" I'm like, this guy's not, I don't know. I can beat him regardless, but I'm just trying to dial in some of my stuff.
So that's interesting. You actually had games where you were actually almost practicing like I was a spring training game or something like that.
Well, I just tell you, so I'm practicing against Tim Ryan, Dan Owens, Junior Seau, Don Gibson, Scott Ross, Mark Carrier, Cleveland Coulter, Dwayne Garner, Ernie Spears. Like, all those guys played in the NFL.
At least 4 of those names are college All-Americans.
Yeah. And so you practice against those guys every day. Like, you got to get better or you get embarrassed. And I don't like getting embarrassed. So, if I got somebody coming off the edge that's better than Junior Seau, I don't think so. They don't make them.
They don't.
Going against Dan Owens and Tim Ryan and Don Gibson, you're hard pressed to find better players than that, and so practicing against those guys every day, being coached really well. Games, sometimes they were boring, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Well, in '87, your freshman year, how much playing time did you get?
I mean, I played week one against Tony Manrich um, in East Lansing. I played about 10 plays that game. I averaged about 10 plays a game every game that year. And the same my sophomore year, other than we opened with Boston College and Tim had a high ankle sprain. And so he didn't play that week. So I got, I played 60 or 70, I don't know, I played every down on defense that game and had a really good game. I was like, oh man, this is my shot to, maybe I can spell Tim a little bit more and get some more reps. And I don't know if the way I played hurried up Tim's recovery schedule or what, but he started the next week and I think that week I got 2 plays. So
Yeah. That '86. So who did you lose to in '87? Do you remember?
we lost to Michigan State twice, opening day and the Rose Bowl, which still don't know how. They were really good that year. And then we lost to
Good running back.
Notre Dame. Yeah, we lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah, you lost to Notre Dame on the road.
Oh,
Remember
who
the
else we
running
lost
back
to?
Michigan State had?
We lost to Oregon as well. That was the only Pac-10 game for 3 years that we lost.
So what I remember, you had a junior quarterback, Rodney Peete, and Rodney Peete and Troy Aikman were one of the great rivalries in the history of college football. We're talking about two college quarterbacks playing for natural rivals in the same conference, and they're the exact same age. And they're playing against each other like for 4 straight years, 3 or 4 straight years. And in '87, you're playing the Bruins at the Coliseum. I'm at the game. It was a very memorable game, but it opens up UCLA winning by a score of, I think, 13-0.
Yeah.
And Rodney he just cannot get it uncorked.
Yeah.
And he throws a pass and it gets intercepted. And the UCLA guy runs the length of the field. And Rodney Peete, who was fast and very athletic and obviously very competitive, ran and ran and ran and crossed the green plains of the Coliseum turf and tackled that Bruin at about the 1 or 2 yard line.
Yep.
And by that time, the clock had ticked down to 0. And so it's still 13-0, but it's a difference between going into the half at 20-0 and going in at 13-0, and I think getting the ball to start the second half.
Yeah.
What a turnaround that was.
Well, I'll tell you that's an impressive play, but I think it was Carnell Lake who intercepted it. And to catch Carnell Lake, that's real. I mean, that's an impressive play no matter who's got the pick for Rodney, but for Carnell Lake, that's different.
And to add to what that play meant, you guys were down at about the 2 yard line, ready to knock one in.
Yeah, we were
down.
Make
it 13-7 at the half. Yeah. So it's between 20-0 and 13-7 is where this play goes, and he intercepts it, I think, in the end zone or at the right.
I think it was at the goal line. I think it was at the goal line.
And runs 100. Maybe he just ran out of gas, and Rodney just sprinted and sprinted. I mean, what did you guys say to him about that?
I mean, obviously you say that's an effort, and I think that's what we were known for, our effort in playing hard. I know that college scouts said it was hard. It was kind of hard to grade us because we just played so hard. So they couldn't tell if we were actually really good or we just played harder, but we were also so disciplined in what we did. And so for Rodney to go down, that's just Rodney being super competitive and having a little bit something else. Like, UCLA is a great school, don't get me wrong, but man, I'm so glad I didn't wear powder blue. I just think there's a different toughness that comes with being at SC. I think it plays out over time constantly that SC is just a little bit tougher.
I agree, and I think the record over the decades bears that out.
Yeah.
Just staying with Rodney Peete, who's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite all-time athletes, great baseball player. I mean, Rodney probably could have gotten to the major leagues as a baseball player. He played on really good teams. Jeff Cirillo, Brett Barbary, Brett Boone, Randy Powers. I was at, as you can imagine, as you can gather, I was at just every SC baseball game and every SC football game during that entire time that you were there. So I saw Rodney play a lot of those games, and he was excellent. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we used to sit up in the Fluor Tower parking lot at the top and watch the games, baseball games.
Yeah, no, it was, and they had a really good. The coaching staffs had switched over. Tolner had left and was replaced by Larry Smith, and the great Rod Dado had left and was replaced by a guy who became a good friend of mine, Mike Gillespie, who's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But it takes us to, well, let's stick with 87. And the second half of that game, of course, I don't want to miss out on that. You're down 13-0, and all of a sudden you just put the ropes around Troy Aikman, who is Troy Aikman, right? He's a Heisman contender. He's an All-American. And I mean, how did you do that? I remember talking to Tim Ryan and literally asking him, how did you do that? How did you stop? And I think he said pretty much what you were saying. It was just discipline.
Yeah, just discipline. And, you can make anybody quit if you just outlast them. You know what I mean? Like if you physically and mentally say, I'm going to win this rep, I'm going to win this play. If you do that over and over and over and over and over, like I sound like Marshawn Lynch, right? You're going to make somebody quit. It may not be in the first quarter, may not be in the second quarter, may not be in the third quarter, but at some point you'll make them quit. And I think that's gosh, I mean, we were so talented. Like that team was so talented. How we lost, the 3 or 4 games we lost is still beyond me, other than, maybe, guys getting used to a new staff early, the staff getting used to the players. But that team was so talented. It was ridiculous.
Every team you played on, really, right through the 90s was talented. I mean, both offensively and defensively. You had good running backs. You had a great passing game. You had great wide receivers. I mean, it was a really great ball club. Okay, so you go up against Michigan State, and it was just one of those weird games. There were 2. We'll get to the second one against Michigan. And you lose to Michigan State. What happened that day? What would be the explanation for that?
The opening game or the Rose Bowl game?
The Rose Bowl game.
We just didn't play well. I mean, to be quite honest, I think as a whole team, we didn't play as well as we had leading up to that. We kind of found our bearings, kind of mid-season that year. I think we played Notre Dame early, and then we kind of got it rolling. And I don't know, sometimes maybe you get a little overconfident. I don't know. You got to give Michigan State a lot of credit too, because that was a very good team. They had,
remember the name of the running back?
Lorenzo White.
Yeah.
They had Blake Ezor. They had they were very good on defense, and George Perlis was very tough and had his guys ready, and they just outplayed us. You got to tip your hat to them. They just outplayed us that day.
Yeah. So now we get to 1988, and there's tremendous expectations. It's Rodney Peete versus Troy Aikman for the Heisman Trophy. Yep. No one really knows who Barry Sanders is yet, and those 2 guys are the 2 glamour guys out of Los Angeles, and it really looks like this is the year, because it had been some down years. The team had won the national title in 1978. They were probably even better in 79 with Munoz and Charlie White winning the Heisman, but somehow managed to tie Stanford. I still don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But we get to 1988, and you start this. I believe you start the season at Boston College with a win
Yeah.
in a nationally televised game,
Yeah.
and you play early a very difficult game against Stanford, where you have
Yeah.
to rally and win the game. I think on the last play.
Yeah.
Was that a game at Palo Alto, Pat?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
What happened in that game? Were you guys looking forward to the week after that, or did you sort of let your guard down against Stanford?
Yeah, I think we let our guard down a little bit, to be honest. And Stanford at that time, they weren't great, but they're very tough and obviously very disciplined. And we just, like you say, you shouldn't overlook anybody because they're all, good athletes, no matter where they're at. We just kind of got off to a slow start. And this picture you're showing on the screen, a quick story. So they're doing that shoot at SC, and Rodney and Troy are changing the locker room. And Troy looks like an outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to Rodney, like, how come you don't look like that? He was just absolutely jacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was a great
the Stanford game, they just, we just didn't show up. You got to show up every week.
You have to show up, but you managed to pull it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it was it a pass on the last play to win it, or did Rodney run it in? Do you remember how you guys won?
I want to say Rodney threw a touchdown pass. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. But there weren't a lot of close calls. I think you had a close call against Washington where you won by a point. Didn't they try for 2 and not make it?
Yeah, we beat them 3 years in a row exactly the same way. They came down, and Scott Ross knocked 3 years in a row, knocked that ball down on the 2-point try. So
you mentioned Scott Ross, who was a good friend of mine, and
my roommate.
He was a roommate. Yeah. I mean, what happened to him is truly a tragedy. And I interviewed him for a book called What It Means to Be a Trojan. This is in 2008. He was still doing okay, but he was reaching out to me, and it was the saddest situation. He was saying things you probably knew more about than I did, but he was saying things like, my parents are afraid of me. My ex-wife or my wife is afraid of me. My children. And he says, he goes, I'm a nice guy. You know me. And I go, I know you are. You're a rambunctious guy.
Very rambunctious.
You're definitely aggressive, but he was just a good person and a smart person.
Yeah.
And he told me he was getting his first concussions as early as his sophomore year at El Toro High School.
Yeah, that's a great picture right now.
Yeah,
that's all I remember him. It was funny. We're at his funeral, and everybody's, like Aaron and Manuel went up and spoke beautifully, and I get all up and I'm like, I don't know who this Scott is, but I know Scotty.
Yeah,
like everybody, like, yeah, that's Scotty Ross, and I'm like, and if you didn't get in a fight with Scotty, you really weren't his friend. He would do something to piss you off. Like,
half the time that Fruget and Matt Gee and Scott Ross were with each other, it was almost like this close to a fight. And Gee was always like, I'll take you, because I think Gee boxed, and Gee knew how to fight, like as a strategic boxer.
He knocked somebody out in front of the Bible one time. This it was one of our players that messed with him on his recruiting trip, and then he knocked him out his freshman year and said, "Owed you that one, bitch."
Did?
No, Gee did. Matt Gee.
I didn't think Fruget was more low key.
Fruz was a lover, not a fighter.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Pat, for those that may not be aware, talk a little bit, Scott, and what happened.
So Scotty was diagnosed as bipolar. And when he told me, I'm like, yeah, no shit, excuse me, that I knew. And he just started kind of going downhill. I think definitely the concussions played a part in it, and not it definitely played a part in it. And he just kind of went downhill. And you talk to him, and you'd be on the phone with him for 3 hours, and it'd just be from this to that to the other. There was no coherence to it. And unfortunately, he took his life. Which really was tough for all of us. And I love Scotty, but I think one of the best relationships Scotty had was actually with my wife. They just connected on a really deep level. And I know that it was a point. His cousin, who's like his sister, lives by me, and we talk about it sometimes. And sometimes Scotty would call, and you're like, God, I don't know if I have 3 hours right now. You were afraid to pick up the phone sometimes, and we kind of kick ourselves in the butt because there's a couple times I didn't pick up. I was busy with my kids and my wife, and I just didn't have it, and it's something that eats me alive to this day.
Wow.
Well,
go ahead, Steven.
Well, I mean, I wanted to write a book called 1989. And I'm kind of skipping over a little bit, but we're getting to the heart of what we're talking about. In the 1989 USC Trojans, I went to both Sports Illustrated and ESPN. I said, I want to write a story because the 1989 USC Trojans are the most star-crossed sports team since the 1919 Black Sox. The things that happened to that team, there's something like 5 linebackers who all died before they were 50. One of them is Sayao, another is Scott Dawson. They're not the only ones. There's Matt Gee, and there was another kid
Dave Webb, Al Wilson.
And he was like the first one. And you had a tough coach who ran them through a lot of stingers in practice. I don't know if that was the reason. They never picked up my suggestion on the article, which I went to ESPN and SI around 2016 to do, right around the time I think that Ross passed away. That was my impetus. And I wanted to write something. And finally, Sports Illustrated did write an article about it, but I wasn't the one who wrote it. I don't know whether they picked it up from my suggestion or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But holy cow. And throw in this, Pat, it's not just the linebackers. Todd Marinovich is on this team. I mean, he's still around. God bless him. But he, talking about star-crossed.
It was. It's kind of the greatest times and the worst of times. Lost a lot of really good people from my time at SC. Way too young. We just lost another one. Tex, Mike Williams just passed. And do you remember JP Sullivan?
I remember the name.
Yeah, JP passed. Dan Barnes. It's just too many.
Barnes is gone. Yeah. Those. I mean, I see Gene Fruget quite regularly. He's doing well as far as I can tell.
Yeah, he texts me when they win games. So
he texts me like when he coaches Marin Catholic, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he was there when Jared Goff was playing, but he's been there for a number of years, and he was an outstanding player. I remember Gene with a interception against Ohio State, I think in 1990, which would have been your senior year.
Yeah, we kicked the crap out of him that night.
Loves talking about that game. So he's around his players at Marin Catholic High School.
Yeah.
I'll see him after a game. I said, this man intercepted a pass against the Ohio State Buckeyes to win a big game in front of 95,000 at the Coliseum. And I'm like, wow, Coach Fruget, I guess we better listen to him. Yeah, but my gosh, an amazing period of time and just personalities. I mean, Matt Gee's personality was larger than life. And the fact that he met a bad end, he was the one who had everything going. He was the one who kept everybody together. He would drive down to see Webb and try to help people. And then he's married to a beautiful girl. He's got a great business. He's got beautiful children. He's living in the Gura Hills, and then he starts becoming paranoid and head injuries.
Yeah, no, I was part of Alana, his wife, sued the NC2A for concussion stuff, and so I was part of that whole deal.
That's an interesting point that you make. I went to J.K. McKay right around this period of time, and I knew J.K. He was assistant athletic director from 2011 till 2016 or 17, something like that. Not very good. He and Pat Hayden were not good wide receiver, not a good athletic director. Not even much of a lawyer, but he was what you call a haymaker in the legal profession. He's someone who can attract big clients and play golf with them, but you're not going to let him actually handle the case. That's getting away. But I went to John K. McKay and I said, look, who went to me is Brandy. I don't know if you know her, Brandy Weinmans, I think is her name. Her husband was a player at SC in the 70s or before you, and he had concussion issues. And she was really lobbying for help. And I was like, you got to do something for these guys. And McKay, with the legal mind, says, well, the problem is that once we have a fundraiser to try to help them, it's going to look like, well, the reason we're doing the fundraiser is because we're at fault.
Right.
Well, you kind of are, but it's the game that's at fault. It's not USC or any one coach or anybody like that. Let's try to get past that and try to do something so help people with legal issues, economic issues, and mental issues and physical issues. And it didn't go anywhere.
It's not going to. It's too much liability for them to take on, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Well, I see Mr. LeBel has returned. Your son get his licks in the batting cage.
That and he's working on his pitching. Yes, they got footwork. And speaking of footwork, Pat, when was your footwork good enough to where you started feeling that you were going to have a chance? A first rounder means I know I'm going to be playing. Was that a interesting revelation for you? To where you see scouts at practices and guys that you recognize. It's a head coach over here. It's another guy wearing a Packers or a Redskins shirt, and they're there talking to the offensive line coach about you. What was that like for you?
Honestly, I had no idea I was going to get drafted. I went to SC and never thought about playing in the NFL. I just wanted to play at SC and get my degree. I never thought I would be good enough to play in the NFL. And then probably towards the end of the summer before my senior year, agents started calling. I'm like you're going to get drafted. I'm like, I'm going to what? No, you're going to get drafted. And I'm like, really? I had no idea. I had no idea I was any good. I knew I loved playing, but I didn't know I was any good.
Right.
And I just kept
thanks coaches, playing. Thanks teammates, thanks everybody else for nobody giving me any Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. I've got something.
So it just as the season went on, and then we played a lot of national games, and we played Arizona State, and I'm taking this 330-pound defensive end into the bench, and that's when kind of things started really popping. Like hey, this guy can move big people. And still pass block. And so, I didn't really know I was going to get drafted till right before my senior, things started saying you might get drafted. First round, never a thought. And then I was pissed off that two guys went ahead of me, two linemen, at the end of the day, that couldn't hold my jock, So, so it was I just played because I love the game. And took care of today, and then the rest of the stuff, like I said, I just had no idea, which was probably good for me.
So just to clarify, you go from early, like spring ball. Me, you think I'm going to get drafted to where? How did that son of a buck go in front of me in just a short amount of time? So your confidence level must have increased dramatically, and your opinion not only of yourself, which is great. Everyone has to have that, but your ability to assess others and where do I rank in with these other guys, that started to take off and really be birthed in you, I guess, in a different way, right?
It's just honestly from watching film, and like I never would leave a game. Like my wife would get so mad. How'd you play? I'm like, I played horrible. I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at that.
Yes.
And then I'd go watch the film, and I've got 15 pancakes. Nobody's getting near Todd. I'm like, man, that's pretty good. And then my O-line coach at SC, like a funny story. So the day I went and talked to Larry Smith about making the move to offensive line, I went and saw the O-line coach, and he goes, "I'm going to get you drafted in the first round," and he wrote down what my signing bonus was going to be. And I'm like, "Coach, I just want to play. Whatever." And he's like, "No, this is what's going to happen." And after I got drafted, I called him like, "You're about 300 grand short on that signing bonus." So other people saw it. I just didn't.
You're saying your coach was 300 grand light on what you eventually did get?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, no, it was all nice. Don't get me wrong.
You split the difference, Pat?
No,
$1,000 bonus to your take a vacation to Hawaii with this.
My last year in New England was kind of rough, just for me personally. And Coach Maskell was coaching for the Saints. He's like, "Hey, you take a pay cut and come play for me." And I'm like, "Coach, I played for you free for one time. I'll never do that again." So,
once is enough. I would do that.
Yeah.
I want to ask though, on a personal level, with some of the coaches and moving and switching positions during the middle of your time there. Mm-hmm. It sounds to me, and I was real hard on myself too. Nobody could be worse than me. I thought a coach would approach that, but really, what was the technique like that you needed to learn? Your post foot, were you a real technician and making sure that your hands and your elbows were in the right spot, and you're trying to assess before it happens what a defensive end is going to try to do and what moves they're going to do and how they're going to swim and get your hands off of you. You knew a little bit of that going into it from playing defense. How were you able to turn that around into becoming a better offensive player because you had played on the defensive side of the ball?
So being a defensive player first allowed me to understand what they were really trying to do, and I became a very good technician, but at first I was just brute force and just flying off the ball, which doesn't always work out great.
On defense or offense?
On offense, when I first moved over.
Okay, please forgive me. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. So like knowing what that defensive end, defensive tackle, that linebacker, like what they were trying to do. So now, like whatever plays called, like I kind of I basically know what their responsibility is. So I can, like, sometimes you just have to get in the way, right? Because they're already blocked, they're out of position by the play call, right? So sometimes you just get in the way, and then it became more technical, like really breaking down guys, what their favorite pass rush moves were, what their moves were, and how my hand placement here versus someplace else is more advantageous. I'm more powerful here, elbows tight, locked in, right? Thumbs are up. If I got my inside hand on you in a pass rush, you were not winning. I don't care who you were.
Sure.
It could be like I would lock you down if I got my inside hand on you. So I was real conscious of becoming a real technician, because as big as I was, I still wasn't that big, for an offensive lineman. I was 275 pounds when I was a junior.
Right.
I was probably 285 as a senior. My first year in the league, I was 295. My second year in the league, I was 250 because I had back surgery, and they wouldn't let me work out or lift. I didn't practice all preseason. Walked through on Saturday and had to go play Kevin Green in LA.
I'm going to interject for a second, and then you can continue your train of thought. You always reminded me of Fred Dreyer. You had a body that was similar to Fred Dreyer. Fred Dreyer was tall and athletic, but not big growing up. And you had a similar trajectory. And then obviously he moved into his body. He probably didn't weigh as much as you because he played, 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
But I interviewed him and he talked a lot about that, but I just wanted to make that observation. So go ahead.
No, I became very technical when I did. I became a phenomenal obsession with watching film and watching. I think you got to watch yourself first to see what you're deficient in and what you struggle with. And then you watch your opponent. What are they good at? What of my deficiencies can they take advantage of? And how do I prepare for that? And so I became I was lucky enough to play for some really good coaches that really prepared us from a schematic and what they were trying to do. And then it was just my responsibility to figure out how to do the job. And I figured it out. I had some good mentors, older guys. Like I always tried to find guys that'd been in the league for 8, 9, 10 years because they knew something, and try to pick their brains a little bit. So, but really became just a really technical player.
One of the nicest compliments I got was when I was in Philadelphia, and Lou Carpenter was the coach. He'd been in the league for about 400 or 500 years, and leather skin. He had a flick in his every time he walked. If he didn't have a cigarette in his hands, he would just flick his fingers every time he walked. Leather skin and everything. And he called me a student of the game once. Would you say that you became a student of the game and really learning intricate things that would, in the business world, they call it due diligence. You do due diligence on yourself almost every play, right?
Yeah. And then it's also being able to, being a student of the game, be able to see something and make a call or adjust, literally on the fly. I remember we're playing when I was in New England, and something happened, and I made a call to tight end right before the ball got snapped, and he's like, "How did you see that?" I'm like, I don't know. I just knew it was coming. You know. So just being able to see that, putting yourself or getting the call to your teammates to put yourself in the right position. I remember playing the Seahawks one time, and they brought a corner blitz from not from the boundary, from the wide side, which you don't expect, right? And I ended up just lighting this cat up. He's like, nobody ever sees that. I'm like, it was real obvious, So it's, you got to give credit to your coaches, for showing you some stuff, but in split second decisions, being able to take that information and use it was helpful.
Pat, Tony Gonzalez, who played basketball at Cal Berkeley, said, basketball made me a better football player, and football made me a better basketball player. I know exactly what he meant. You as a dual sport guy can understand the appreciation of what he's meaning there. Did playing defense make you a better offensive player? Because little things like a technique, hey, I know he's on my inside shoulder. This is different. I know what to look for. His front foot is changed from what it was the previous play. What were some of the things that you were able to pick up on that most other offensive players aren't aware of, but you knew what a defensive player was doing just by the way he lined up against you?
Literally, you just nailed it. Their foot alignment change when they're running a twist, right? Were they off the ball or were they crowding the ball on a twist?
Right.
I remember we played a guy against Seattle that if he twitched his index finger, he was going to chop spin inside. No matter where he was at. It was the only time he did it. He just twitch his finger. And so I saw him twitch his finger. I didn't even, he was probably playing not even a wide 5, probably more like a 7 tech, just not a wide 9, but in between there.
Right.
And he was twitching his finger. I didn't even set out to him because I knew he was going to chop and spin and come inside. And he just spun right into me. It was almost like cheating. Just picking up weight distributions, and then, defensive players are doing the same to the offensive players.
Sure.
I've always I've done that with other things in my life. I got really into wakeboarding when I retired, and I was out with this pro wakeboard guy one time, and we're talking about something like, oh, your feet, you're not transferring your weight on your feet. Now, for me to talk to a pro wakeboarder about where his feet are, the weight on it, distribution, He's
Yeah.
like, how? Like, that's just what I see. It's just the way I am.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they get it. And it's funny, the guy that had the twitch, don't ever tell him, right?
I didn't
Because you
tell him.
want to be able to, next time you play him, I want
Yeah,
that same indicator to still be in effect. So you can't tell him, even though you know it, and he's probably looking at you like Scooby Doo. How on earth did you know that I was going to do that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm
not gonna tell
I'm
you.
just not going to do it.
To say everybody's got tells, like poker players have tells. Everybody's got them.
Yeah.
Well, on my sport is baseball, so I'm thinking like, the pitcher, sometimes he's got the glove out and he's working, that's going to be the curveball. The other way is the fastball.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get to Boston, and I am a Californian like yourself, Pat, and I have recently moved to New England. And so I went to a Buffalo game last year at Highmark Stadium, and I'm living in Patriots country and Red Sox country. And this is a different place. Not to mention the weather. It hasn't turned yet, but I'm waiting for it. I just bought my oil this morning.
Oh, yeah.
So talk a little bit about being in Boston, Massachusetts, and playing against the Buffalo Bills for 4 consecutive seasons, Thurman Thomas and all those great players that won AFC and Eastern Division titles but couldn't quite get past the Super Bowl. That was a really interesting and competitive time in the NFL.
Yeah. So I love New England. I was not happy when I got drafted. And in hindsight, I absolutely fell in love with the people, the area, the fans, because they were brutally honest. Like, if you sucked, they let you know. If you were good, they let you know. Playing in Buffalo during that time with those guys, for some reason we matched up pretty well with them, and we were horrible. But we just seemed to match up. My left tackle in New England would hold Bruce Smith to like a half a tackle in 2 games a year. So he was really good. But I remember playing them one time in New England, and we're up 6-0. I'm at 6-0 at half. And I'm like, oh, we got these guys today. And the next thing I looked up, it was 42-6. It was Jim Kelly to Andre Reed, Jim Kelly to Lofton, Jim to Thurman. It was
Metzlars, everybody was.
Yeah, it was an absolute explosion. But I do remember going up there when we kind of turned it around in New England, and we beat them really bad. We ran counter a couple times, and I literally ran through the linebacker, didn't even stop. And I remember Ben Coates catching one over the middle and taking it to the house, probably 60 yards. And Cornelius Spinach, I'm like, you ain't catching that horse, bro. And he's like, you guys are, that it was at that time. And then Tim, you remember Tim Lodish?
Yes.
From UCLA. Tim goes, you guys are on your way. And then, of course, I get traded to Oakland and don't get to go do all those Super Bowls. But it was cool to be part of the turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, you might have been there when Pete Carroll was.
No, my first year that was my first year, maybe my second year in Oakland.
Oh, so you didn't play for Pete Carroll in New England?
No, Yeah, I remember it was a culture shock to all my guys when he got there from Parcells.
Yeah, did you know much about Pete Carroll?
Yeah, because he was with the Jets forever,
Yeah, he was a very well-respected defensive coordinator, I believe, right?
Yeah, he did a good job with those guys in New York. And defensively anyway. Those are always really good games. He had good players too. But he coached them up really well. I love Pete.
That almost, if you look at the way I kind of think of Pete Carroll and Ted Tollner as sort of teeing it up for the next coach, because Tollner certainly left a lot of good players for Larry Smith. And there was a culture that was on the verge of winning when Pete Carroll left. And then obviously we know what happened after that. But you go to Oakland, okay? Now you're playing for Al Davis. Now he's an interesting character. I've had I've had some interactions with Al Davis.
Yeah.
And I've had interactions with people who were close to him and got a really good idea of just how paranoid he was and what he expected of people and how fearful some of his employees were of him. And I have a few stories. I don't really want to get into everything right there because that's not really about this interview with you. But you're getting a chance to be with the Raiders, and this is the storied Oakland Raiders, for God's sake, and they had been in Los Angeles playing there as your home team during all the years you're growing up. What is this like?
It was bittersweet. Obviously, I didn't want to leave New England. Coach Parcells and I had some very interesting conversations that he didn't care for. And so he sent me to Oakland. So I was super happy to go to Oakland. At least I got to go home, at least in the state. And Mr. Davis was phenomenal. Like, everybody wants to talk about him in a negative way, and I can only go about my interactions with him. And I was always there. I would go work out in the morning, and then I would go home and eat, and then I'd come back and do a bunch of rehab. And that's when Mr. Davis would be there. And so I was basically getting 2 workouts a day in. And I got to be around him a lot, and I love that man for what he gave me an opportunity to keep playing. And he, like, he would, if he wasn't using his Clippers tickets, in the off season, hey, he called me up. He wants I'm on the court. Like, yeah, I'll take him. You want the suite to go watch the A's game in the afternoon? Yeah, let's do that. And when I got done playing, I mean, I was done. And he called me. And he's like, hey, he always called me Patrick. Hey, Patrick. And what if I gave you $300,000 just to stay in shape, just in case we need you? And I'm like, Mr. Davis, I appreciate it, man. I'm 220 pounds. I can't do anything to get to 270 pounds again. And he's like, I just love having you around. So, I mean, I'm a big Al Davis fan.
The quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard.
Hard, yeah. He's like, and you know what? And I wear my Raiders hat. They take care of us as alumni like no other team in the world. Like, they just had us out in June for a full wellness weekend with heart scans and hearing tests and blood tests and every test in the world. And then they had alumni weekend in early August, and they fly you out or pay for your flight out and feed you and put you in nice hotels, and they're just unbelievable, Mr. Davis and Mark.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends that are former Raiders, and there is no doubt that they treat their formers, their alumni, better than just about any other organization. And yes, it's Super Bowls have something to do with it. I think the Patriots would probably, the newer Patriots would probably feel that they're pretty good, but the organization itself. And it's interesting the way you said this, Pat, because you called a couple of the coaches by their first name. You called him Coach Parcells, and you called him Mr. Davis. You didn't call him Al. So there's a certain respect that even now that he's gone, and you were friends with him, he called you on the phone, and you're negotiating deals and all that kind of stuff. That to me is unheard of, and I would have called him Al, because that's the way the league is, right? Yeah, you're Al, and I'm Harper, and you're Pat, and he's Steven. It's not Mr. Davis, but you did that.
That's the only way I could address him. I have a ton of respect. And there's one thing I used to love is before the games, on Sunday, Mr. Davis would obviously be out there, and every coach and every owner would walk across the field to shake his hand. It was literally like The Godfather, because there's certain things that people don't understand. The NFL is not the NFL without Mr. Davis. No. USC is not USC without Mr. Davis.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's the first one to recruit a black athlete to USC. He was so innovative and so forward thinking. And I know people said he lost it at the end. I'm like, he didn't, because no, the game had changed to a different type of game, but he was still very in control of it. But I was in a drill in training camp in Napa, and he's just shuffling by, and he turns around, and he's like, Patrick, I think you might want to change your footwork on that there, son. And he was right. So he didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Hey, was he hard to work for? Yes. Was he demanding? Yes. But would he give you the shirt off his back if you won for him? Yes.
I have to admit now, Pat, my first experience with him before you were probably still in college. This is 1980. You were still at SC, and the Raiders were playing in the Coliseum. So you had probably played the night before. Thank you, Logan. That one on the right, he only had like 2 different jumpsuits, right?
Yeah.
And he's got the pearl old grandma chain around his neck to hold his glasses up, and that one strand of hair that's blowing in the wind. But I wanted to go shake his hand, just like you said with all these other executives, just to say thank you for all that you did for the game itself and to make it different. And he kind of knew who I was. I mean, I'm a nobody. I'm just a long snapper on the opposing team. But, for him, I don't know if he had a photographic memory or a enigmatic memory. I don't know. But that dude was a thinker and loved the game. And you benefited from it and got to be around him as very few people do.
Well, you also know he was the first guy to hire a full-time strength coach in the NFL. Like, he was so far ahead, and just he was right a whole lot more than he was wrong.
You're completely right, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but I wrote a book called "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Oakland Raiders." It's a history of the Raiders. So I went into a deep dive on Al Davis, and you're absolutely right. He was at US. He was didn't recruit the first black player at USC.
No.
They had players at USC, black players, since the 20s. But you are right in that he was very progressive in that area, and where he really made a difference was in that's my book, which I sent to Harper. That's one of my favorite books, and because I grew up a Raider fan, I loved the Raiders, and it was great when I was going to USC and living in Los Angeles, and they were playing at the Coliseum. So I went to a lot of games and knew a lot of Raider players. They used to come into the 5-0.
Yep.
Mark Davis come into the 5-0, and Steve Berline was their quarterback. He used to come in. But getting back to Al Davis, just a couple issues. He recognized Harper. He probably had scouted him since he was a sophomore at Notre Dame. High school, by the way, not college. And he just knew everybody. And he really changed the game because he was bringing in black players who had gone to these traditional black colleges in the 60s and giving them an opportunity. The Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Packers were ahead of everybody else. And it wasn't a mistake that they were the 3 best teams of the 1960s. And so he was always ahead of the game. You're completely right about the strength coach. I mean, he saw Mark Van Egan working out one day. He's just a kind of a not well-known player out of Colgate, but he's looking at his legs and he says, I like this guy. We're going to draft him. Turns out to be a star. So he was the thing about Davis, and then I'll stop my rant. But the thing about Al Davis is I think computers caught up because Al was the worker and he would see things and he would scout and spend more time than anybody else. So he knew a Mark Van Egan at Colgate. He knew players at smaller colleges, a Florida A&I or a Maryland Eastern Shore. It's not just USC, Notre Dame. And he would recruit these guys and bring them in. And eventually, and this happens in baseball and other sports where everybody's in a computer, everybody's name is on a file, and you just can't be overlooked anymore. But he was getting these overlooked players, and he was also getting the guys who were supposedly a year or two past their prime, and they weren't. they give him one more great season.
Yeah, he was very good at that. Yeah, very good at that. Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Bruce McGowan on one time. You were talking about how he and Harper was also mentioning how Al took care of players. And Bruce was talking about a guy named Warren Wells, and Warren had been a very good player, a wide receiver. And then he had problems with, maybe he was bipolar and he got in trouble with the law. And Al never forgot him. Al always invited him and gave him money and helped him recover. And that's the way he was. And he did that with just so many different players. And you didn't have to be a star. You didn't have to be, Howie Long or somebody like that to be loved by Al Davis. So it's interesting that you had a good relationship with him. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Pat, do me a favor. Let's go back to your first year. I pulled up a roster, and Ray Agnew, Bruce Armstrong, Vincent Brown, Fred Childress, Ben Coates, you mentioned him a little bit earlier, Marv Cook, Irvin Fryer, Tim Goad, Jerome Henderson. This is one I had completely forgot about. Ivy Joe Hunter was a running back out of Kentucky. I'd forgotten that he was in the league. Eugene Lockhart, Fred Marion. There's a couple others that I didn't write down. Ed Reynolds, who I've gotten to know afterwards. He's part of the trust. Fred Smirlis, a guy named Andre Tippett. I mean, come on. You're in the same locker room with some of these cats, and I'm just asking you, when did you know that you fit in with all these guys and that they were just guys and you're a guy and you play a position and they do other stuff and you're all in the National Football League together?
It took a while, to be honest, because Andre Tippett was like one of my, grew up watching him and was just, I actually have his jersey. It's the only jersey I have.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of my mentors. He's a guy I could go talk to.
And you had to go against him in practice just about every single day, didn't you?
Yeah. So I knew I fit in because I could block him,
Okay.
And then Bruce Armstrong, we are super close now, but he didn't talk to me in my first 2 years.
Really? Were you there to take his job, or was it that were you going to be on the other side?
I was on the right side just because he was there on the left, and he got hurt my second year. He blew his knee out, and I went over to left and played pretty well. And he came back, and that's when we became close. We're very, very close. We talked quite a bit. Tim Goad, Irving Fryer. So my locker was between Irving Fryer and Bruce Armstrong. So it took a little while with Bruce, obviously, but everybody else, I almost beat up Eugene Lockhart in the locker room one day, my rookie year.
Okay.
He was saying some stuff, and I told him this, and he's like, dude, it's I'll beat your ass, old man. If you think I'm gonna back down to you because I'm 22 years old, man, you got another thing coming. That got broken up. But I love Eugene. He's, Harper, things happen in locker rooms. So it didn't take very long, but I didn't say much when I was a rookie. I just thought rookies should be seen and not heard because I remember I had a kid in Oakland who was talking all this smack, and then we go play on opening night, Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs in Kansas City, and he doesn't have a very good game. And that's why I've been telling you to shut up until you've played 16, 17 games in this league, because they're all good, and I knew that because luckily, because I knew Tim Ryan, I knew Marcus Cotton, I knew Dan Owens and people that had been in the league before, and it's different, and then when I went and trained, the college kids to getting ready for the combine or after the combine, just hey, this works in college, this doesn't work in the NFL. The best guy you played against in NFL in college is probably a pretty average guy in the league, and there's just going to be freaks out there. So I was very,
Steven?
Maybe Mrs. Harlow has started up the car again.
I think so. Maybe that's we got to bring him back, but
turn on the electric garage opener.
We got to get the electrician to come out there. I hope that puts to rest. I was going to say, Pat, there are times when you'll hear, fans say that the worst team. Let's pick a team let's say the Cincinnati Bengals. Not today, but a few years ago, there was or the Saints this year. It doesn't matter. Oh, I think Alabama or Oklahoma. There's a college team. I think USC. There's a team, and they could take anybody on and beat the Saints. That's how good they are. And for Pat to kind of disagree with that on a standard level of you don't know. You just need to keep that quiet.
Just the fact that the schedule alone and the fact that so many people can get injured at any particular time in pro football, of course, college football is the same, but especially pro football, really means that any game is up for grabs. Really at any sport. I mean, Major League Baseball, NBA, these guys are the best of the best. You're playing against the best of the best. Mr. Harlow, do you hear us? We're looking at your.
Yeah, it went away for this, so I went to a different room.
Oh, for a second there, I thought Matt Willig had appeared in the dark with your mustache, but I see that it's you.
No. I went to a different room trying to figure out what happened.
Well, our guess was that your wife started up the car or the garage opener again. Well, while we wait, I have a story, and I told this to Pat. So in 1987, I was working. I think I was in law school, and I was also working to make a little extra money at the 5-0, which was this sports bar at USC. Tim Ryan comes in with, I think it was either Don Gibson or Craig Gibson. I always get them mixed up. One of them was a teammate, and the other was his younger brother being recruited to USC. And I had been told, do not let anybody under 18 in. And so I had to tell the younger Gibson, you can't come in because you're not 21. Wasn't even that.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, there you are again. For a second there, you were upside down. I was telling Harper the story that I told you about how I had to turn away. Help me out here. Who was the older one? Was it Craig or Don Gibson?
Don.
Don was the older one. So the younger one was Craig. I couldn't let him into the 5-0 because he was not of age. And I faced the wrath of Tim Ryan. And then after you guys beat UCLA, I went up to him. I said, hey man, hopefully we're good. He says, we're good. And then years later, he's the 49ers color man. And he was on the radio with Greg Papa. And Greg always says, whenever I think of anything, I think about USC, I think of Steve Travers. So some question about the Trojans came up, and he says to Ryan, well, we ought to call Steve Travers. And Ryan, recalling this incident, goes, oh, that's not a good idea. And so a lot of my friends that I knew in high school lived in the Bay Area were listening to that, and they were like, what was that all about? So, but I sent him a copy of one of my Trojan books. I think I also interviewed him for What It Means to Be a Trojan. And so everything worked out with Tim Ryan. I certainly did not want to be on the wrong side of Tim Ryan in any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, we have you back, Pat. And we want to be respectful for your time. It's been about 2 hours. Harper, you usually have some insight that you like to finish up with.
Well, you said earlier that you had a hard time leaving the Patriots. I'm not going to ask you to go in depth with that unless you prefer to, but you're right at the new contract period, right? What, 4 years, maybe 5, depending on how many you signed for in your initial rookie deal, and that goes south. But you mentioned Al Davis earlier. I'm fascinated, Pat, with how that transition went from, gosh, I'm really struggling with the game and my love for it and the business and all that other stuff, to go into playing with Jeff Hostetler, Tim Brown, Napoleon Kaufman, and being a part of the Raiders and wearing the silver and black. But what was that experience like for you?
It was great. The offensive line there was really welcoming. Obviously, I had Kevin Gogan, Lincoln Kennedy, Steve Wisniewski, and Steve's a guy that I had admired as a player for a long time. So to get to play next to Steve was great for a couple reasons. One, he's a great player, and two, nobody wanted to come inside on me because they were afraid of Wiz blowing him up. And then Gogs and Timmy Brown still saw him at the alumni, and every once in a while I run into him like at an airport, and he sees me from behind. He's like, I know that broke walk anywhere. So it was great. Other than I had 3 different coaches in my 3 years there, so trying to get any continuity and the culture going was a little bit tough. But it was great to come home. The first off season, they were still in El Segundo, so we were in SoCal. So I actually got to live in my own house for the first time in 8 years.
Wow.
And then moved up to Oakland for the season, and I actually loved Alameda, where we lived in Oakland, or just outside Oakland. And it was great. It was great to get to know those fans, get to know the people in the building who were phenomenal. H-Rod was our trainer at the time, and then he's since retired. And Sky Touche is a guy that I talk to. Unfortunately, I still talk to my doctors from the Raiders quite a bit.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So it was awesome.
Sometimes play man for the Raiders at that time.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you get to know him very well?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay, I've known him for years.
Yeah.
He replaced Bill King. I guess you never had a chance to get to know Bill King.
No.
Yeah, Bill King was unbelievable. The Raiders always had great announcers.
Yeah.
Their philosophy too, and I believe this is an Al carryover. He wanted to have the fastest receivers available on earth as wideouts, and Cliff Branch and Willie Gault, I guess, would be one of those. Obviously, Tim Brown was pretty stinking fast. Wasn't known as a sprinter, but you know what I'm saying. And the biggest offensive line you can put together. I think part of that stemmed from the early days against the Kansas City Chiefs, where you got Curly Culp, Willie Lanier, Buck Buchanan. Those were enormous human beings. Well, if we're going to play that this year, we better be enormous too. You fitting in and being a part of that from an offensive line. When you went there, did you know? Yeah, Lincoln, when he was with Atlanta, when I played with him, he was 405 pounds, right? He's just enormous. And Gogan isn't a small dude either. There's some big human beings that are playing with you.
So the right side was Lincoln, Lincoln probably 375. Gogs every bit of 360, 370.
Right.
Barrett Robbins was 330, 340. Wiz was 320, 330. And there's me, little guy at 310, So it was great though. I remember here's kind of different. So when I was in New England, the Jets jumped off sides and hit Bledsoe early in the game, like first drive, trying to get in his head. So I started fighting, right? So I look up, I'm in the end zone, and there's, I don't want to say there's 53 Jets around one white jersey, but there was probably 40 green jerseys around me.
Sure.
I run over the sideline, I lose my stuff,
Yeah.
I go to Oakland, I get into a fight in training camp. It was the Cowboys. And
the dual practices where you go against each other. Yeah.
And so I knock a kid out, and obviously that starts everything going. And all of a sudden, it is every coach, every player in black was around, and I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm home. So
You didn't
it
need
was
all
different.
53 of them, but you had enough to go that everyone has your back, and we know
Yes.
what we're doing. We're
Yeah.
the Raiders, and
Yeah.
we are that's the way we play.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Joe Bugle had a bloody nose and a split lip, so that was pretty awesome.
Coach Shanahan? At any point, do you play under Coach Shanahan during your time with the Raiders?
No. I tell you what, he was beloved by the O-line, though. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good coach.
Well, when
Not good coach.
it's time to hang him up, Pat, what was that like for you? I mean, I know everybody says I can get one more year, I can get one more game, but you had told us, you turned down a pretty nice hefty sum of money just to work out and look really good for Al. But was it your back, your knees, your neck? Was it a little bit of everything, or was it your desire that changed?
It wasn't my desire. My desire was the year before my last year. Well, that spring I had a huge back surgery. It was an 8-hour ordeal.
Wow.
And I came back from it, and it was Gruden's first year. And we're playing. I don't know where we played. I want to say we played the Cardinals or something in Arizona, and I got torqued pretty bad and lost feeling down my leg and my foot briefly. And I was talking to the aforementioned Matt Willig on the phone the next day, and I couldn't feel either of my feet. My feet were totally numb. And I'm like, dude, I think I'm done. And I didn't get that feeling back for a while. So I go in the facility the next day, and I'm like, I can't feel my feet, man. And I'd been battling my back since college, and my body just gave out on me, and I've actually having another back surgery here at the end of the month. This will be number 27, total surgeries. And so, my body just gave out. I trained really hard. I played really hard. I practiced really hard. My last year in Oakland, with Gruden, I said, man, you can have me on Sundays, or you can have me, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but you can't have both. I need 1 day of pads. I have to have 1 day in pads. So Thursday was my day. Wednesday would be, I'd walk through the Gruden meetings, do all that stuff. Thursday would be my day because we'd still be in pads. And then Friday was half pads, and I did walk through and all that, and then walk through on Saturday and then play on Sunday. So my body was just giving out on me.
And this is Gruden's first year.
This is Gruden's first year.
Yeah, he's a rookie coach, and he has to learn real quick. There are certain medical issues, that he wants to work as real hard in practice, and he's got the face and the Chucky thing and all that going on and whatever. But he also has to realize, if I'm going to put my roster together and have the best one available on Sundays, 47, 48, 53, man, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to coach a little bit differently than what I think I'm going to need to coach. Is that something you noticed?
Yeah, it was tough. It was funny. Do you remember a guy named Grady Jackson, big D tackle?
Oh yeah.
So
he was 390, but he was 6'1", give or take, right?
But could dunk, could two-hand dunk.
Could he really?
Yes. So,
okay.
We're in practice. We're doing inside, 9-on-7, and I'm like, Grady, don't touch me today, right? We're just gonna dance, right? I'm gonna get my hat, my feet, and everything in the right place, but we're not hitting. So one of the defensive coaches starts screaming at him, and Grady, bless his heart, he goes, and Grady has a little Southern accent. Harlow says, "Don't touch him. I ain't touching him." I'm like, that's a good rook, man. That's a good rookie. You can't find those everywhere.
There he is.
Wow.
He looks svelte right there. His final couple years in the league, he did not have a jersey that fit like that. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah. Grady's one of the all-time great dude. Love Grady.
Yeah. He's a good superhuman being and a great teammate. Okay, so you're done. What do you do next? What's a very educated, college-educated NFL veteran? What's he going to do with the rest of his life when he realizes that I can't lace him up anymore? I still have another 20 plus surgeries to do. What replaced football for you?
More football.
Okay.
I went in and, I did some insurance for a while. I did real estate for a while. I did some of those things that just didn't pique my interest. I got into coaching by pure accident at high school. I was just going to go for 2 weeks to get this school.
You mean I'm Pat Harlow and you need to buy a rider policy from me because that wasn't in the cards?
It wasn't great. That wasn't great.
We're talking about term insurance.
Yes,
yeah,
you can. Oh my gosh.
Doesn't float my boat a lot.
No.
So I got into coaching. It was supposed to just be a 2-week, help these kids get through a spring ball. They had a new coach, didn't have an offensive line coach. And I just fell in love with it. And honestly, I was kind of coaching even when I was playing, like with younger guys.
Right.
Just trying to help those guys out, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I did it anyway.
You're down in Southern Orange County, right, Pat?
Pardon?
You're down in Southern Orange County?
Yeah.
Have you coached against Dave Brown and Dana Point?
I coached with Dave Brown when he was at San Clemente.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. He lived in Dana Point, coached at San Clemente.
Yeah. I coached with Dave.
Wonderful guy and a great Trojan.
Yeah. No, coached with Dave for 7 years, actually.
Oh, really?
And his son. Yeah. And then I coached at San Clemente so I started in Anaheim Hills at Kenyon High School and coached there for a bit. We moved to Arizona, was head coach at Flagstaff, kind of head coach with another Trojan, Eric Affolter. Did that, moved back to California and started coaching at San Clemente and was there for 7 years, and then went to J. Sarah Catholic. Was there as an assistant for a few years, then became the head coach for 4. And then back down to an assistant because I was going to.
I want to tell you a Dave Brown story, and you may not know it. And he's so unassuming, he may never told you this story. Dave Brown, 1971. He's a junior at USC. He's not the star of the team. He's a lineman like yourself, and they are 2-4. The Trojans are 2-4, and it's the week of the Notre Dame game at South Bend. And Dave Brown goes up to Coach McKay and he says, "Coach," and he's not the leader of the team. He's not the star of the team. He says, "Coach, we are not together, and there's only one way that we're going to be together." What is Coach McKay goes, "Well, how's that?" And he goes, "We have to accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior." That's Dave. And McKay's like, "Well, I like where you're going here. How are we going to do this?" He goes, "Well, I know some guys with athletes in action. We're going to have a demonstration. We're going to pray." So make a long story short, they come in, they do a demonstration, and they all pray about it. And there was a lot of racial division on the Trojans in 71 is what was really going on. And everybody came together. Charles Young, Manfred Moore, Dave Brown, Alan Graff, Pat Hayden. There was a big issue with the quarterback, the black quarterback and the white quarterback, and everybody hugged and came together. And that team beat Notre Dame by 2 or 3 touchdowns, did not lose again until 1973. In 72, they were probably the greatest college football team ever assembled. So that's my Dave Brown story.
No, Dave's a good man. And I still think the 80 SC team's the best team.
The 1979-80?
Yeah, that team.
The 79 team easily might be. I mean, I think they have 5 pro football Hall of Famers, not just college Hall of Famers. 2 Heisman Trophy winners. I don't know. I mean, SC football is, I'm not sure what to say about them now. That last game, did you see the game against Illinois?
Unfortunately, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Didn't Jeff George call you right afterwards? Did you have a $1 bet on that game?
We did have a little running before and after. Yes.
Harper
he actually at halftime, he texted me. He's like, "Hey, you guys are going to win this game. We're a bad second half team. And like, I felt a little bit better about it. And then like, God almighty. And then he hit me up after the game too. So yeah, super excited about it.
Harper, did you play against Jeff George in high school?
No, I played with him with the Falcons here.
Didn't he grow up like near you in that part of the valley?
No, not Jeff.
Oh,
wait.
Jeff's from Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of somebody else. I thought he was. There's another guy I'm thinking of who came from LA and then played for several Midwestern college teams, not just one, but like two or maybe even three. I'm not sure who he was.
Yeah, because Jeff started off at Purdue and ended up at Illinois.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was mistaking him for somebody else.
Yeah.
I know he was a good quarterback, and he beat Todd Marinovich 14-13 in the first game in 1989. Lastly, Todd, I really love Todd Marinovich.
He's awesome.
A very cool guy. What a story he has. But what was it like when he shows up at SC as this unbelievable recruit?
He wasn't like most of the older guys, because he had come in with so much hype. And then you remember Pat O'Hara,
Sure.
You remember Pat O'Hara? Pat O'Hara was a hell of a quarterback. And
yes, he was.
had he not blown his knee out, Todd would have probably had to sit for a little bit longer. So Todd was.
Yeah, he was supposed to start that Illinois game until he
blew his knee out. Yeah. So he was like nobody really knew how to take Todd. He came in with all this hype. Now I've been playing against Todd in AAU basketball since age 12. So I've got to be at that time and see him and get to know him very, very little, but knew him decent. So he wasn't really like, he was super quiet as a freshman, just trying to figure out how he fit in. And then, obviously got the opportunity, had a few more opportunities with the first team, going through training camp and all that. There's no way we lose that Illinois game. And I think that the coaches really dialed back everything in that game. Yeah. So it was like, I think the coaches hurt us more in that game than Todd did, to be quite honest. Because I think the next week we had to go up to Washington State, and he let us down on like a 130-yard drive with all the penalties and stuff to win the game to Gary Wellman. Todd's a beautiful human being, and we've all done some stuff to help him get through some rehab a few times. And like the last time, I saw him at the book signing, but he called me up. I was leaving practice. It's probably right before he moved to Hawaii. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "I'm just leaving practice." He's like, "Call me when you get home." So as soon as I get into my driveway, I call him, and he's like, "Turn around." So he's right behind me. He was waiting for me at my house. So he came in. We had a nice dinner and talk. And that iconic picture of him flipping off the UCLA guy.
Yes, and I commissioned Todd to paint that picture, and it is hanging in my daughter's bed and breakfast here in Vermont right now.
I have the original.
Okay.
I have the very first one.
Yeah.
So that hangs. Usually, I'm not in my California house right now. I'm in Arizona. It's the first thing you see when you walk into my house.
Yeah, it's exactly the first thing you see when you walk into my daughter's.
Actually, I'm unpacking one, but you can't even see it. But this is another one of Todd's paintings. I have a bunch of them.
Well, you mentioned that Washington State game. So I'm at the 502 club, and the guys are all there. And Todd comes strolling across Jefferson. I guess it's Jefferson Boulevard to get into the 50. And he has a football in his hand, and he throws me a football. Perfect tight spiral. So I actually could say I caught a pass from Todd Marinovich. And I said, "Hey, what's going on, Todd?" And he goes, "You wouldn't believe what I just did." I go, well, you just be Washington State. He goes, yeah, I know that, but I just got off the phone with Ronald Reagan. I think you guys, were unpacking in the locker room when you got back from Pullman, and Coach says, there's somebody who wants to talk to you on the phone, and it's Ronald Reagan. So I go to Todd and I said, well, Todd, Nancy and I watched your game up here in Montecito and the beautiful hills of Santa Barbara. We were just pleased as punch. People think of me as a Notre Dame guy, but I'm really a Trojan at heart. And he goes, that's perfect. It's exactly what he sounded like. So, yeah, those were special days.
That one, yeah. Hey, Steve, the thing I remember from that, you were telling me that story, because that might be the only tight spiral Todd's ever thrown.
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember. I mean, he was just a few yards away, and he throws me a football. He goes, catch, left-handed, and I was like,
I used to give him a bunch of crap. We would actually throw a duck up there, and I'd just be like shooting it, bam, and he's like, it gets there. Does it get there? I'm like, it gets there.
Yeah. That's all that matters. If you throw a bad spiral, you have to come back with,
Well, I read his book, and if you can get him on our show, I've been reaching out to Todd and his publicist, and for some reason, I consider myself a friend, and I think he thinks I'm a friend, but for some reason, I'm not hearing back from him. If you could help us out with Todd Marinovich and Matt Willig, we got to get him on. That guy, he just kills me. I did not know that was. I just thought I thought he was the next Danny Trejo, and he's a former UNC football player. I did not know about that story at all. So I definitely would like to get Matt on. So I'm going to send you a clip of this. You can send it to him, and you can hopefully tell him that Harper and I are not bad guys. So.
Well, Pat, we appreciate everything that you are doing. You've been coaching now for years, and is that still in the cards for you?
I think we've got some frozen action going here.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll say thank you, Pat Harlow, for being a part of the show. We've had some technical difficulties, and occasionally the ampage and the voltage doesn't always work from the technological aspect of what StreamYard's putting together. So, Steven, final thoughts from you here as we go.
Well, I want to thank Pat Harlow for taking the time. It's been 2 hours at least that he's been with us, which is a wonderful amount of time for us to spend. But, he had so many stories. I mean, right back from knowing Mark Carrier, growing up in Long Beach and then going to Norco High School and getting that Imperial Valley high school football culture, and of course the Trojans of Southern California during some of their best teams, really, and some of their most star-crossed teams, and then finally the Patriots, and then Al Davis and the Raiders, and then I didn't even realize he coached with my friend Dave Brown at San Clemente for 7 years. So that's really interesting. We'll have to get Dave on. But Pat, we're just wrapping up here. We want to thank you very much for being on Take 5 with Steven Travers, and I can only say, fight on.
But it was a pleasure being on and reminiscing a little bit. Harper, nice to meet you.
Thank you, you as well.
Good luck with your son in baseball.
Yeah, I just get to watch. You've got a son that played. Real quick before we go, I mean, is it harder as a parent? You get more nervous watching your kids than any time that you ever played. Is that the same type of we'll call it the DNA that's passed down from one generation to the next?
I was never more nervous in my life than watching him play.
Yeah.
And he was a good player. And it's like, I'll tell you the most scary part real quick. So he's starting against the Niners, and he is the backup long snapper. He's in Arizona. And the long snapper breaks his arm. Now, Sean has never done it in a game, and he said he's only done it like once in practice on the side. And he gets in the game. He has never been in the meetings for punt. and they jump off sides twice. And the guy comes up to him. He's like, "Hey, man, do you not hear the cadence?" He's like, "No, I hear it." He's like, "Well, why are you stepping?" Like, I thought it was on me. So he didn't know. And so they get backed up 10 yards. And I'm like, all right, now he's just going to send this thing over this guy's head and they're going to lose the game. And then all I'm going to hear is your son did this. He just throws a dart back there, goes down, it's over. But that's the most nervous I've ever in my life.
Yeah.
More than when he was playing against Aaron Donald.
Well, I've snapped it overhead and on the ground and some horrible things. And I'm glad your son didn't have to go through that, because that's the only time anybody wants to interview you after a game is after a bad snap or something like that.
Yeah.
But Sean Harlow, NFL veteran, his father was also as well. 8 years in the league, with the New England Patriots, the Oakland Raiders, first team All Pac-10 as a USC Trojan and a Morris Trophy winner. Dr. Christopher Harlow, thank you again for being with us. We appreciate it. And to give us a bit of your time and go over some of the great things that you experienced in your life as an athlete, as a Trojan, and as an NFL player, we are indebted to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, we want to say thanks to everybody that tuned in here today. Pat Harlow has been our guest here on Take 5 with Steven Travers. And Steven, myself, Harper LeBel, and along with the producer and engineer Logan Landers and the entire 100 Yards of Football team, just want to say have a fantastic day, everybody. We wish you all the best.